Usually, when a movie is made a remake, the normal reaction, and understandably so, is that why you have to do it? Can't you think of something original? Why couldn't you wait longer? Or was it necessary? There is a lot, and I mean a lot of a bad reputation about remakes, and most of this is most of those big name studios, which I give my biggest eye to Disney and now DreamWorks and Warner Brothers, in which they keep on making all these remake movies of popular movies that they don't necessarily need to be remade or something like that. I mean, because there is the famous phrase that when it's not broken, don't fix it. And they break that rule a lot of times, and every time when they think that they're doing better, the material that come up it goes worse. Because honestly, this is the problem, and the biggest difference when you make a remake on the cinema, as well as with Broadway plays. Because Broadway plays is kind of like when you're making a remake on a Broadway play, you're committing on a different version, committing with different actors, their different visions, and well, you don't have something technically physical to record with to make people, how can I say, remember every single time. Every time when you go there, you're gonna get kind of like a different experience with different actor, different director, or something like that, or a different vision. But and it's not exactly recorded. But when you make a movie remake, it stays almost forever. People see it and you can keep it. There are different mediums that they keep it for prosperity. And when you want to go revisit it, you visit the past, and then you see all these people. But then when you want to remake something, they will see it, with hostility, because it was like, what's that point? But that is to say that there are exceptions to the rule. Sometimes a remake can be excused when you either try to make something different, but at the same time familiar to that source material. But it's not easy to change or something like that. You have to have an excuse or a reason or a valid reason to that without losing the original essence. That's kind of like this whole point. Or sometimes you just don't need to remake it. You just make something kind of like different. And unfortunately, these are kind of like very less in between. Some good examples that I have in my head are, for example, The Blob. The Blob was a great movie in the original one, and then it was remade a lot of times. One in particular is another one in which that one is a little bit more visceral, but it still has, it has the essence. It still has some different things to kind of be on its own. Or how about, for example, Dawn of the Living Dead? The first movie the original movie is fine. I thought it was okay, but then the Zack Snyder one, in which is probably one of the only good movies that he had made, Bazinga, is this one. Well, it's not perfect. It still has kind of like its own identity, and it's a little bit more visceral than the other one. And when you kind of see a little bit, you can find some good remakes. With that said, this is something that you have to clarify, to get into your head, to try to find some kind of a reason why someone like Roger Ebert wanted to make Nosferatu in the first place. Nosferatu was a very, very old movie. I mean, And it has the interesting story that practically it was going to be a Dracula story, but they have to change some of the things, and especially the names, because they didn't have permission to use those names, and so and basically that's what you get. And honestly, for a silent film, I remember watching it many years ago, and it was fascinating. You can tell for its time, for gothic horror, it's still kind of like effective and makes you question how they can do that in these, with the limited technology of CGI and all this stuff. But and it's a silent film, by the way, and also there's no music. Most of the music that you hear are actually just slap on it. And so I highly recommend you to watch it if you kind of have a chance. You know what? Probably I should talk about it on my next Halloween special. But still, I'm not gonna lie to say that the new remake of Nosferatu, I was highly anticipating. At first, I was like, what was the point? We still have kind of like the movie, but still I was kind of like a little bit open, but I already explained why I have my skepticism. And then the trailer came. The trailer really showcased that it looks really promising. Although it was a kind of like a big eyebrow raiser saying that why you had to release it on Christmas season, on Christmas Day of all things. So I was like, okay, since Terrifier 3 was during the Halloween season and it was celebrating Christmas, now we got Nosferatu. Okay, fair enough. But I had a little bit of high hopes because, well, the guy who directed it, Roger Ebert, he made The Witch, and I love The Witch. Granted, I didn't see his other movies, The Lighthouse and The Northman. I didn't get myself time for that, but I know that The Witch. I know the style, and I really like that kind of horror because, well, that's how horror is supposed to be. And so I was kind of giving my high hopes to it, but because of this, I had some scheduling during the last minutes, the last days of the year. I was like, okay, what should I do? So I had to buy a ticket for Christmas Eve at 10:30 p.m. And since I had a lot of time, I decided to watch Craven the Hunter first. And if you watch my vlog, you will see that I wasn't fond into it. So I was like, please, let Nosferatu be good. And you know what? I had to kind of like this high expectations, especially because I was in New York, and and Nosferatu was gonna show in a big AMC Prime theater. And the funny thing is that my expectation went high after watching the trailer of 28 years later, because my God, the movie, because of that music and the sound effects of that trailer, it gets really disturbing with a really good audio quality. I'm serious. And then finally the movie came out, and let me tell you that it was worth it. Nosferatu, congratulations. You're still a remake, but you kind of proved that just because you're a remake doesn't mean you have to suck. You just stick with the material, put some stuff on your own, and because of the style of the director, this movie, it became more than a horror movie. It became kind of like a work of art. This is the best way I can describe this movie. It's a work of art. And you know what? I know that I sound like I am overhyping it, but the movie deserves the credit where it's due, because I know that there's a little bit of an audience that can get it. I can be that kind of audience. and this one plays the cards really right that it's cemented on my head. This is and I tell you, this is worth it. Even though I do warn you that just like The Witch and the other, and from what I heard, the Northman and what was it, The Lighthouse, this movie is a slow burn. It's 2 hours 30 minutes, and the pacing it goes a little bit, in a slow snail pace. But unlike movies where it fails to do that, you have to be in the mood to keep your attention, and this movie does so. It keeps you interested in the story, even if you forget or know the pacing of the original movie, in which the original movie is an hour 30 minutes. This one adds an extra hour, but not those moments. They don't feel wasted. Because it sets the mood, and it can get disturbing and eerie, especially because of the execution that it has, and with it also some fantastic acting. And well, this is probably one of the best cinematography you could ever see in a movie. Even if most of it is CGI, you barely notice, and it's really well done, because it kind of shows that Robert Eggers, he really knows how to play with the lighting and the darkness. He takes advantage of darkness and the murkiness to bring the atmosphere really creepily. So really, it became one of my favorite movies of this year. So it was totally worth it. And this is me making praise on a genre that I am not exactly kind of like very fond of, which is the vampires. Although I gotta thank Abigail that it revived me that interest on vampires, in which it kind of shows vampire stories can be done right. It may be not the most original one, but still, wow. So to start out, the story, it follows closely to the original, as well as the Dracula story. It's basically Dracula. Like I said, Nosferatu is basically, let's say, like a German version of the Dracula. Because, well, originally Dracula is a story that it takes place in Britain. This Nosferatu, it takes place in Germany. But it's basically the same story. There's this landlord who is recently married. He has to go to fulfill a real estate contract with a count far away from his home. And despite his wife's warnings, he decides to go because, well, he just wants to make ends meet and all this stuff. But unfortunately, he finds hostile gypsies, and then he finds the Count Orlok himself. But little that they know is that Orlok is, well, not exactly the kind of guy you want to mess with. And after many things that goes wrong, then things get worse and worse, especially when Orlok brings evil to the town. Especially when he puts his eyes set on our protagonist's wife. That's the basic story, and yes, it has what you get from a vampire story. Like, he's a bloodsucker. He brings evil. Although don't expect kind of like Castlevania, in which he's gonna turn into a vampire or something like that. No, this one doesn't take the bat approach, but more like a demon approach. It's basically evil incarnate, and everywhere he goes, it brings plague and evil and all this stuff, and it's as visceral as you can imagine. Things can get a little bit R-rated, but it doesn't abuse that, because the story keeps on, and the movie, well, it takes its time. It really sets the mood. It makes you see the characters. It makes you see how they act, what they're going through, and you feel them. And even with the main bad guys, you can tell how much deeper this rabbit hole goes to insanity, and it cements itself how that this is not a pretty movie that you're gonna go through with it. And for the actors and the characters, let's go with of course with our protagonist, of course, Nick. The guy, our protagonist is called Thomas Hutter. He's played by Nicholas Hoult, in which he does a good job, but I think that he nails it a lot more during the first act when he's with Orlok, in which it showcases how much he gets. Yeah, how much he gets into this deep fear on that guy, in which you find him shady, but then he kind of just keeps him like a prisoner, and then he finds out that, oh my god, this is so bad that I have to tell everyone. And he keeps it that way during the rest of the movie. It's just that he's more focused on that aspect during the during the first I think 30 minutes. We also have the woman who plays his wife. What was that? Ellen Hutter. She's played by Lily Rose Depp. Yeah, Johnny Depp's daughter. And honestly, there are times that you can tell that she is a little bit hamming it up a little bit, but I think that was a little bit unintentional, or for the sake of the story. But either way, she does a good job, and she's committed. Especially the moments in which she gets kind of like these panic seizures, or the moments in which she is desperate. She's desperate. This is probably a great performance of her. There are some other actors that goes there. There's Aaron Taylor Johnson playing the kind of like the guy who he has a wife and two daughters that he's fond of, but he's kind of a little bit skeptical of the whole thing until things go down the rabbit hole. The wife is played by Emma Corrin. I'm just watching because I don't know much of the name. Ralph Ineson plays Dr. Wilhelm Stephen, who is one of the I was thinking it was one of the doctors, a professor, something like that. Simon McBurney, he plays kind of like the crazy guy. I think he was the crazy guy. The crazy guy who is kind of like the Count Orlok's subordinate, and he really showcases insanity. Oh yeah, I did wanted to also leave a little bit at last that probably my favorite actor during the whole movie is Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe plays like this professor named Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz, who is basically the Van Helsing of the equivalent of the Dracula series. And there are times that he goes a little bit over the top, but you know what? Thankfully, his over-the-topness doesn't exactly break the fourth wall or anything like that. It keeps itself stable for the essence of the movie, and he keeps it that way. But the way he talks and the way he kind of says that, well, I experienced all these things and I've been telling you so and all this stuff, he kind of became my favorite character as well as my favorite actor of the movie. And then, of course, the vampire / demon / monster himself, Count Orlok. He's played by Bill Skarsgård. What is it with these people trying to get Bill Skarsgård? This is the third movie in which he was in. He was in Boy Kills World. And apparently this movie is his apology. This is his apology letter after bringing us his garbage movie, The Crow. But still, this is the third movie he was in. But anyway, at least they don't make him a little bit act in a way. And I've been hearing some people that have kind of like a little bit of mixed feelings for her. Although I did find it fine. Although if you ask me, the original design of Count Orlok is more iconic. This one, well, to its credit, to its credit, the movie reveals him very, very slowly. When he show up, you only see him on the background or on focus from the camera, and he just and it slowly just show him, and the cinematography still kind of hides most of his physical. But when you notice more his physical, well, he's kind of like this guy with a big coat, or sometimes very skinny, the iconic long fingers with nails, and the guy has a mustache. He doesn't have hair. He has a little bit of pointy ears, but he has the mustache. And when you see him, for some reason, he reminds me of Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik, but in a more decayed, how can I say it? But decayed, where it's almost like a corpse. Dr. Robotnik, Jim Carrey corpse. I think I found the third long Robotnik relative. I mean fourth, if we count Maria. Oh my god, this is the best way I can describe it. But also the voice that they gave him, you can tell that they fix the audio to make it sound like this, and it's good enough. But somehow there's something of a flavor of Freddy Krueger in it. And even that made me thought that maybe it was played by Robert Englund, but no, he wasn't. And well, that's pretty much I can say about the acting, but the cinematography is the most spectacular I have seen this year. I mean, there's movies that I've seen that have some great cinematography. I mean, but mostly animation. I mean, like The Wild Robot or Flow. Those are kind of like have very impressive visuals, but nothing like at least this year. And Wicked. Wicked also has some moments of impressiveness. Although Wicked, you can tell there's some moments that you can see the fake CGI. But thanks to the darkness and the murkiness of Nosferatu, it's kind of a little bit hard to see some of the CGI and the fault that it is. For starters, while the original movie is black and white, this one kind of wanted to approach this, but they don't overuse the colors. They stay all the colors kind of like muted, dry. In which, in a way, that could give some boring mood. But when used correctly, like in this case, it does fine. Especially like I said, its biggest contribution is kind of almost like the lack of light. Because the lights, you can tell that it is limited. It's darkness. When it is dark, it only showcases people, holding a lantern or a candle, or during that time, that we don't get very bright lights or something like that. It's just it's limited, and man, that is showcased. And sometimes it's like a work of art. They intentionally put some darkness here and there to cover some stuff intentionally. Or when you're gonna show the background, and this is where it looked like even the castle looks so creepy and in these scenes. There is one. As for scares, it's mostly atmospheric. There is some jump scare, but it doesn't treat you like an idiot. It's also very clever and not overused like a Blumhouse. It's mostly settling that there's something evil, and the whole movie, while slow, you can tell that how the paranoia, all the things that it's just creepy. It becomes kind of like the best way the evil is spread is mostly like a combination between the presence of a stranger, and it brings kind of like the bubonic plague that kills people. And oh yeah, and speaking of the light, I will say that there is a very clever jump scare that doesn't even need an orchestral string, but it really meant the manipulation of the darkness, in which it if you see the movie, you know what I'm telling you. But let's say that it is a character that appears in the darkness, and it was used very cleverly. And again, no orchestral string. This is what I like this guy even more than Alex Garland, because this guy doesn't treat you like an idiot and trust that the audience can get the picture of how to make horror. I mean, once in a while it's fine to make kind of like a dumb thing, but honestly, honestly, the audience is. I think that the audience can be a little bit more clever than it is, and if you're not, then audience, please make an effort. Make an effort to do it. I know that you want to be relaxed and all this stuff, but honestly, finding a puzzle is engaging. So yeah, this is pretty much that. This is pretty much some of the things that I really love about this movie. This is the cinematography that also there is this kind of like this theme, the whole of trying to, there's love over adversity, that fight about on someone that is evil. You feel it. I got nothing much. It's kind of like to say. Okay, I am overhyping this movie. So let's see if I can downgrade its ego a little bit. So, like I said, the pacing can be slow. It's a slow burner. It's a slow burner. Some people might not be in that kind of mood of a movie. This is why I did suggest that if you're curious, you can stick with the original. The original, yeah, can get a little bit boring if you're not in the mood. But remember, these are kind of like the time of that it was kind of like that day and age, and still it is an interesting watch. And this one, actually, some people might get bored if you're not into it, but let's face it, it plays the cards of the horror right. Right. Okay, what else I can say? Yeah, some people maybe turn off a little bit with some of the hammy acting that goes with William Dafoe mostly. Oh yeah, this movie also breaks a little bit of taboos here. I'm not gonna say what it is, but that gave me a lot of appreciation to it. So, with that said, Nosferatu got me. This is probably a big surprise for me, that I just came out with a big positive to a movie that is mostly a remake, but Roger Eager kind of proved that you can make a remake as long as you keep the heart into it. You play your cards to put your own stamp on how to make a movie different compared to the original, that it doesn't feel like it overshadows it, but mostly kind of like giving it respect. And in a way, if you're kind of like a historian, you kind of find a way to actually welcome the original more than saying that you watch this one, this is better, the original is better, because this is kind of like the most typical thing that you're gonna find in most remakes, that say that watch the original is better, in which for 95% of it is true, but this one kind of cements itself to not being one. So for a final movie of this year, I really pick up a winner with Nosferatu. I think I am forgetting something about Nosferatu. Nosferatu!